The first time Kael saw the Varn warships tear through Earth's upper atmosphere, he didn't feel fear. He felt clarity. From the rooftop of the burned-out comm station, he watched the ships carve clean lines through the clouds, like scalpels dissecting the sky. Their formation was arrogant, precise, and flamboyant, as if they expected no resistance. And perhaps they didn't. Earth had fallen quickly in every major city, her defenses fractured, her generals stunned by the speed and scale of the Varn assault. The aliens didn't just conquer, they performed it. Kael adjusted the dial on his rifle scope. The wind was soft at this elevation, the highland peaks blocking the harsher currents. He had chosen this position 2 days prior, not for its view, but for its silence. The broken comms dish beside him still flickered with the last echoes of transmissions. Useless now, but comforting like a relic from a better time. He lay prone, the barrel of his rifle nestled between two rocks, angled at the valley below. No shot to take yet, but soon. Kael, you reading me? A voice crackled through the earpiece, familiar and measured. Lena, go ahead. You're about to get company. Recon drones spotted a patrol moving north, 12 hostiles. Pattern suggests a sweep. Copy. Same species. Varn infantry. No exotics. You're good to engage if they pass too close. He didn't respond. She knew he would. There was no hesitation in him anymore. That had been bled out in the early days, when resistance was mostly retreat. Now, with most of Earth's cities under alien control, the survivors moved like ghosts. Kael had become their sharpest edge, one of the last snipers still operating alone behind enemy lines. Below, movement flickered between the trees. Dark shapes, upright, fluid. Varn soldiers moved with a confidence born from armor and superiority. Their suits glinted under the fractured sunlight, plated in reactive alloys that adjusted temperature and form. Kael had studied them for weeks. Watched them walk through firestorms unscathed. Watched them tear through platoons like machines. But they had a weakness. Arrogance. The lead soldier stepped into Kael's line of sight, scanning the hillside with a device mounted to his arm. Kael exhaled slowly, body pressed to the earth, still as the stone beneath him. He watched the soldier's helmet swivel, pause, and move on. He didn't take the shot. This wasn't the objective. Not today. He whispered into the mic, "They're not heading my way. Looks like a pass-through." "Let them go," Lena said. "Priorities still the command trench. Any movement there?" Kael shifted slightly and turned his scope toward the base beyond the ridge. Alien metal and organic tech meshed in angular geometry. A fortress built in the ruins of an Earth hydro plant. What had once been a center of clean energy was now a forward command post for Varn operations across the northern hemisphere. And somewhere inside was Krezer, the Varn tactician credited with the collapse of 5 continents in less than 30 days. Kael had never seen him up close. Only in recon images, in hazy heat signatures. But he had studied his patterns, mapped his movements, waited for a window. The aliens believed they were unchallenged. Their tech outclassed Earth's in every category. Firepower, mobility, shielding. Human bullets couldn't even dent their armor. Human air support had been wiped in week 1. And their AI suppression network made drones and satellite coverage nearly obsolete. But Kael didn't use drones. He didn't trust AI. He trusted his breath, his hand, his scope. "You know, he's supposed to be invulnerable," Lena said. "Krezer. They call him the Shielded Flame." Kael adjusted the zoom. "Everyone has a seam." She didn't argue. She never did when he spoke like that. He'd been a sniper long before the invasion, but war had changed his craft. The rifle he carried now wasn't standard military issue. It was a Frankenstein weapon, hand machine parts, a barrel from a museum piece, a firing pin forged in a workshop lit by candlelight. The scope was a salvaged antique, analog and resilient. The ammunition? Custom-forged slugs of dense alloy designed to punch holes in theories, not just armor. Primitive, the Varn called it. Outdated, yet they bled when it struck. He watched as Krezer finally stepped into view on the outer platform of the command trench. No helmet, of course. The general wore his crimson command sash proudly, as if daring the universe to notice him. Kael studied him through the lens. Taller than the others. Broader. The breathing plates on his neck pulsed rhythmically. A trait Kael had found most telling. A subtle habit. Krezer always lifted his chin when issuing commands. It exposed a part of his armor Kael suspected was vulnerable, an exhaust vent not covered by shields. "I see him," Kael said. There was a pause. Lena's voice softened. "You sure this is the shot?" "Not yet. Need wind to drop by .2. And he's got a sentry drone in my line. You get one chance." "I know. Because if you fail..." "I know." Silence held between them. Then Lena said, "We've got evac ready 2 clicks west. You fire that shot, they'll triangulate you in seconds." Kael's eye never left the scope. "I only need 1 second." And he meant it. Everything in him had narrowed to this moment, this ridgeline, this breath. The shot wasn't just about Krezer. It was about belief. The Varn believed humanity had been reduced to scraps and stories. That resistance was a delay, not a danger. They mocked human weapons, laughed at bullets, declared Earth's era of warfare dead and buried. But Kael was a fossil they hadn't counted on. He had watched his cities burn, watched commanders break under pressure, watched entire platoons routed with no chance to fight back. And through it all, he had waited, learned, built the shot in his mind, brick by brick. Lena said one last thing before she cut the channel. "When you pull that trigger, it's not just a kill. It's a message." Kael didn't answer. Through the scope, Krezer turned to gesture toward a wall display. He raised his chin, just slightly. The vent flared open, and Kael exhaled, but didn't fire. Not yet. Timing was everything. Precision wasn't about speed. It was about certainty. The wind dropped. The drone moved. Kael's finger tightened on the trigger. And still, he waited. One breath more. He whispered to no one now, and the shot broke the silence like the earth itself had cracked. Then the screen went black. Dawn bled slowly across the jagged peaks, its orange-pink hues staining the snow in defiance of the cold. Kael lay still beneath a white camouflage shroud, eyes fixed on the valley through the scope of his rifle. Frost crusted the edges of his mask, and his breath escaped in disciplined, measured wisps. He hadn't moved in 2 hours. Below, the alien camp stirred with mechanical precision. Varn soldiers marched in structured rotations, their boots leaving shallow impressions across the hardened snow. Kael tracked every step, memorizing timings, distances, and deviations. Patterns were forming. That was good. He watched Krezer again. The commander stood near the edge of a shallow rise, gesturing to subordinates as if he were directing an opera. His command armor shimmered faintly, absorbing and reflecting ambient light, a marvel of alien technology. Kael wasn't intimidated. He was calculating. Lena's voice crackled gently through his earpiece. Visual contact confirmed. Varn reinforcements landed last night. They're expanding south. You reading this? I see it, Kael whispered. They're getting bolder. They're calling it Operation Assimilate. Data intercepts say they expect Earth to fold in another 4 days. Kael shifted his grip slightly. They're too confident. Lena's voice hesitated. Are you sure this is the right play? Command's asking for an update on the shot. Still waiting. On what? Certainty. Silence followed. Not frustration, respect. Lena had learned to trust his instincts, even when they veered from protocol. Elsewhere in the alien camp, Krezer addressed his inner circle. He removed his helmet, revealing a face of angular plates and narrow, intelligent eyes. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he reviewed a series of holographic projections. "These humans cling to ancient kinetic weapons," he said in his native tongue. "They favor cover and cowardice. They fight like cornered prey." His advisor, Vree, tapped a claw against one of the displays. "They excel in concealment, sir. Their sniper teams evade plasma sweeps. Our drone scans have failed to locate even one. Their tools may be crude, but their discipline is evident." Krezer waved dismissively. "Discipline does not alter reality. They are limited by physics. A projectile, no matter how well aimed, cannot pierce Varn command plating. This armor," he said, rapping his knuckles against his chest, "has withstood kinetic penetrators from orbital railguns." Vree hesitated. "There are anomalies. Their long-range shots are calculated, not guided. They correct for gravity, wind, even curvature. We've seen evidence of hits from beyond 1,500 meters." Krezer smiled with teeth. "Impressive but futile. Their best marksmen are artisans playing at war. They believe patience can overcome physics. It cannot. Our shields will hold. Our armor will triumph." On the ridge, Kael adjusted his elevation slightly. He wasn't just watching movement. He was studying behavior. How often Krezer shifted posture. How long he remained exposed. Where the guard rotations broke formation. The vent port under the jawline, still unshielded, was open for 2 to 3 seconds at most when Krezer barked orders. He murmured into his mic, 3-second exposure window confirmed. Angle holding steady at 1,278 meters. Lena responded, impressed. "That's within your margin. Still needs refining," he said. "I want that window stretched." She chuckled softly. "What, you want him to give a speech?" Kael didn't reply. He was thinking. Terrain could be used. Acoustics. Distraction. He scanned the area, noting a hollow in the rock below the command ridge. If he could time a ricocheted noise or fake movement to draw Krezer's attention longer, maybe he could extend that precious window. His attention turned inward, not to doubt, but to assess. He reviewed every component of the bullet, its spin rate, weight balance, heat-resistant tip. He thought of the casing he machined himself, the tungsten carbide needle buried inside it like a secret. There was no backup, no second round. This was not just a shot. It was the shot. A sudden flutter of movement below caught his eye. A human prisoner was being dragged through the snow. One of the recon scouts. Kael recognized the insignia even at distance. Blood marked the snow behind the man's limp form. Krezer didn't even glance at him. Kael's finger tightened on the trigger, then loosened. Emotion had no place here. He reached for a small device beside his scope and twisted its dial. An old sonic lure, calibrated to mimic the chirp of high-altitude birds. Harmless. Familiar. He adjusted its pitch, aiming the tiny speaker toward the hollow below the Varn ridge. "Lena, I'm sending a sound cue into the basin. If it works, it'll draw the commander's attention 5 seconds longer." "Understood. You ready to move if it goes loud?" "Yes." He pressed the button. 3 seconds later, the chirp echoed up from the rocks below, subtle but sharp. Krezer's head tilted slightly. He turned toward the source, gesturing for a scan. His posture changed, chin raised, jaw exposed. The guard next to him hesitated, unsure of the sound's origin. Kael watched, breath held. Then Krezer stepped forward. And just like that, the window widened to 5 seconds. Lena's voice was breathless. "That's it. You have the angle." Kael didn't respond. His mind was already working backward from the shot. The recoil, the displacement of snow, the 5-second trace path before detection. If he fired now, It would change the entire battlefield. But something still gnawed at him. Timing mattered, but so did message. A dead commander would shake their command. But if it happened while the alien army was on the move, mid-transition, mid-confidence, then the ripple would turn into a shockwave. "I'm not taking it yet," he whispered. Lena's voice was sharp. "Are you serious?" That was the perfect, almost perfect. "He'll inspect the forward trench tomorrow. That position puts him half a meter closer and isolates him from the others. It'll be cleaner." There was a long pause. "Command won't like it." "I'm not doing this for command." A moment of silence passed between them. Then Lena's voice returned, steadier. "All right, we'll prep for tomorrow. Same conditions. Better ones," he said. "I'll be lower in elevation. Less drift." As Kael backed out of his scope, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. Krezer turned toward his guards, laughing. One of those long, deliberate gestures full of contempt. Then he tapped the chest of his armor, proudly, and said something in Varnian Kael didn't need to translate. He was daring them, daring Earth to try. Kael stared at him. He didn't feel anger. He felt clarity. Tomorrow would come, and with it, the answer to the Varn's arrogance. The air was thinner at dawn, as if the mountains themselves were holding their breath. Kael crouched at a lower elevation than before, tucked behind an outcropping of basalt and wind-worn stone. He had scouted the site hours earlier, dragging his body across frozen rock to ensure line of sight, concealment, and the all-important escape path. The wind was soft now, rustling like an old man's whisper through the chasms. "Perfect." Lena's voice came through low and steady. "You're in position?" He didn't answer right away. He adjusted the rifle, settling the bipod legs with a practiced rhythm. Each motion was slow, deliberate. No wasted effort. No uncalculated risk. Finally, he spoke. "Better sight line than yesterday. No shield drones. He's vulnerable. Range, 1179. Wind steady at 3 clicks south. Barometric pressure holding. I've accounted for drop." Lena was silent a beat. "That bullet you made. Sure it won't fracture on contact?" He stared through the scope, measuring the line to his target with a soldier's detachment and a craftsman's focus. "It won't. I fused the core under a vacuum chamber. No air pockets. No inconsistencies." A pause. Then her voice, softer. "And if it does, then it fails spectacularly, and I probably don't make it out." She didn't like that. He knew because she said nothing. Silence was her discomfort. Below, in the alien trench line, Krezer moved with the same imperial confidence he always displayed. The forward command trench had been expanded overnight, filled with portable tech structures and survey drones. He strode among them, unhelmed again, barking commands to Varn engineers and soldiers alike. Kael noted the distance between him and his guards, just as predicted. No overlapping shield coverage. No line of sight interference. More importantly, the thermal vent on the armor still pulsed beneath his jawline. Still unprotected. Still open every time Krezer raised his chin to speak. Kael placed the tip of his gloved finger against the trigger guard. His rifle rested steady atop its frame, a precision bolt action forged for custom loads like the one inside the chamber now. A weapon with no automation, no AI assistance. Just breath, timing, and belief. "You need to know something," Lena said quietly. Kael's eyes didn't leave the scope. "Go ahead." Command's pulling the sniper teams. They're evacuating to fallback points 2 sectors west. He blinked. "What?" "Orbital scans say Varn are prepping a full assault sweep. All infantry teams in this sector are expected to be overrun within 36 hours. That registered, but only as data." He didn't react, didn't flinch. "You staying or going?" she asked. Kael's voice was even. "I'm staying." "Thought you might say that." A long silence followed. Just the wind. Then a small sound, Lena exhaling. Not fear, resignation. I'll hold comms until blackout. You've got 60 minutes before I'm forced to exfil. Kael allowed himself the ghost of a smile. That's more than I need. Through the scope, Krezer had begun what Kael recognized as a planning session. He was projecting an invasion diagram for his lieutenants, tracing paths with his claws, describing encirclement strategies. The arrogance in his posture made Kael's stomach twist, not out of hatred, but because of how familiar it was. A leader convinced he was untouchable. A conqueror who didn't know he was already being hunted. Kael adjusted his focus, not on the target itself, but everything surrounding it. Wind flow over the rocks, thermal currents from the power cells, even the faint shimmer from a nearby heat sink. He wasn't just watching Krezer. He was reading the environment like a text written in invisible ink. Then, as if on cue, Krezer did it again, tilted his head back, exposed the vent under his jaw while issuing a command. Kael exhaled. The shot was there, but he didn't take it. Instead, he waited another minute. Then two. He needed one more repetition, one more motion to confirm the rhythm. The window had to be natural, not forced. If it wasn't instinctual, it wouldn't repeat. Then it happened. Krezer turned to a technician and began to lecture, gesturing with both arms, posture wide and proud. The vent opened. Clear. Kael moved his finger to the trigger and wrapped it tight. No more hesitation. He centered the crosshairs. The wind dipped, slight but manageable. He inhaled, held, and squeezed. Thump! The rifle recoiled into his shoulder, clean and sharp. The echo rolled across the cliffs like thunder cracking through bone. In the scope, the world didn't pause. It exploded. The bullet, riding a silent arc of death, struck Krezer square beneath the jawline. Not a clean entry, more like a spearhead through glass. A sharp, sudden rupture. The armor split at the seam and folded inwards as the kinetic force tore through the internal layers. There was no energy flare, no dramatic scream. Krezer simply dropped, his body twitching once, then still. Around him, chaos surged. His guards dove forward. The technician backed away in horror. Alert pulses sounded, lights blared, drones lifted into the sky like hornets disturbed. Kael was already moving. He rolled from the outcropping, grabbed the sling of his rifle, and vanished behind a ridgeline of broken rock. He kept low, knees absorbing each impact, breath steady. Lena, he called, voice low. I saw it. Confirmed kill. Jesus, Kael, you did it. No time. They'll triangulate. I'm relaying to command now. They're rerouting evac toward your position. Hold tight. But it wouldn't be that easy. Already, aerial scouts crisscrossed above. One of them banked sharply toward the ridge, scanning heat signatures. Kael darted into a gully and threw himself into a snowdrift. The frozen crust bit into his hands, but he didn't move. The drone passed overhead, missed it by inches. Lena's voice came back, urgent. Kael, command wants confirmation. Was it a smart round? No. Repeat that. It was handmade, he said. Machined. Fired with breath and steel. A pause. Then they won't believe it. They don't have to. Kael waited another minute, then bolted across a narrow ledge into a shadowed ravine. Every motion was part of a pattern, a route memorized days in advance. By the time the drones rescanned his former position, he was already 2 kilometers away, crawling through the belly of a frozen trench system. Above, in the Varn camp, chaos continued to unravel. Without Krezer, the hierarchy was disrupted. His death wasn't just a tactical loss, it was symbolic. He had declared himself untouchable. His armor had become legend. And yet, it had been pierced by something they didn't believe in. A bullet. A human. Primitive. Kael didn't look back. He didn't need to. He had left behind the proof. And the shockwave was only beginning. Snow crunched beneath Kael's boots as he pressed deeper into the ravine, each step a measured risk against sound and exposure. The mountain's shadow swallowed him, offering brief protection against the Varn's growing frenzy. He could hear them now, shrill howls echoing across the cliffs, amplified by static chatter and the telltale hum of drone wings slicing through the cold air. But none of it mattered. Not yet. Krezer was dead. Lena's voice came through once more, clipped and urgent. Evac birds inbound. 30 minutes. They'll hit LZ5. Can you make it? Kael paused behind a boulder slick with ice and checked his route against memory. The ridgeline ahead was narrow, exposed, but it cut the travel time in half. He scanned the horizon. No movement yet. He could make it, but not without a chase. Affirmative. Moving now. He broke into a run, crouched low and silent, the rifle across his back swaying like a second spine. The wind bit at the seams in his gloves, and his breath fogged despite his controlled rhythm. Every muscle ached from tension, but none of it slowed him. There was only the next step, the next cover, the next breath. Behind him, the Varn were waking up to the truth. Their commanders scrambled to contain the narrative. Satellite feeds were cut, internal reports silenced, but rumors among the troops had already bloomed like wildfire. Whispers of the untouchable general felled by a single bullet. No plasma burst, no explosive, just a primitive metal spike fired by a man they couldn't find. Inside the Varn command tent, Vree stood frozen. Krezer's blood still stained his armor, and the silence that followed the strike still reverberated in his ears. Footage of the incident looped again and again across the tent's central holopad. No flashy targeting beam, no advanced optics, just a distant crack and the impossible death of a warlord. He turned to the others. Who was it? The technician stammered, human. Kinetic rifle. No tracking signal. No plasma trail. Name. We don't have one. They're calling him the ghost. Vree clenched his jaw. Bring me proof. Sir, bring me the man who did this, or bring me the mountain he hides on. In the field, Kael reached the ridge and pressed his body flat against the stone. From this height, he could see the vast valley below, stretching out like a frozen sea of glass. In the distance, the evac point shimmered faintly under the veil of refracted light. But so did the patrols. 2 squads of Varn were sweeping the perimeter, their movements tight, efficient, and fast. Kael studied them. Their formation indicated a search pattern, not for a general fugitive, but a target they believed was nearby. He couldn't run through them. He had to disappear. He ducked into a shallow crevice, checking his surroundings for alternate exits. The cave mouth he remembered from scouting was half covered in snow now, almost hidden. But it was there. He slid inside, adjusting to the dark with instinct more than sight. His breathing steadied. His mind shifted, not into panic but precision. He'd been here before. Not this cave, not this exact trap, but this situation, outnumbered, outgunned, but ahead in a way that didn't show up on a map. While the Varn scoured the surface, he moved under it. He advanced through the narrow passage until he emerged on the far side of the ridge. The sound of rotor blades reached him faintly now, slicing the upper atmosphere with urgency. He keyed his comm. Visual on the bird. It's early. Lena's voice came back with relief and tension layered together. We pushed them. VAR interference went dark suddenly. Command thinks you rattled their networks hard. We're seeing erratic signal loss and an AI rollback. They're confused, Kael said, half to himself. Good. 3 more clicks to the LZ. Straight shot if you can stay low. I'll make it. He sprinted again, ducking through gullies and over ice-packed ledges. The snow no longer felt like resistance. It was a rhythm, part of his pattern now. Each step echoed the pulse of a rifle shot that had broken the myth of Varn invulnerability. Behind him, in the alien command structure, fractures grew. Troops demanded answers. Some refused to wear their armor. Word spread across sectors. If one human, with no AI assistance, could punch through their highest protection, what else could Earth's forces do? A single moment of vulnerability had rewritten the balance. Confidence eroded not through a grand battle, but a solitary, invisible blow. Kael reached the LZ just as the gunship descended. Its rear hatch dropped with a hiss of pressurized gas, revealing the pale blue interior lights and the silhouette of soldiers waving him in. He dove inside, rolled to cover, and gave the pilot a single nod. Go! The hatch sealed shut, and the roar of the engines intensified. The ship lifted, spinning slowly to face west. Kael removed his mask and leaned back against the cabin wall, sweat frozen against his skin. Lena appeared from the cockpit, kneeling beside him. You did it. He looked up at her, eyes calm, but shadowed. It's not done. No, but it changed everything. They sat in silence for a while, the vibration of escape humming through their bones. Kael watched the ground disappear through the floor panel window, saw the Varn scrambling in confusion, their organized sweep devolving into panic. What do we tell command? She asked. Kael took a breath. Tell them the truth. That you made the shot. That their faith in machines failed. That instinct still matters. That one man with focus can still change the course of a war. Lena smiled, tired and proud. They'll write songs about it. Let them. The ship banked into the clouds, leaving the mountain behind. The battlefield would shift now, not through overwhelming firepower, but through belief, because every soldier who heard the story would see the flaw in the armor. Every alien who wore would question its safety. The myth was broken, and Kael had become something else. Not just a sniper, not just a ghost, but a reminder. That precision defeats arrogance. That discipline beats design. That humanity, flawed, reckless, patient, was not yet finished, and never primitive.